Nestled within the Venetian lagoon, between Venice and Lido, lies one of the most sinister and haunted places in the world, Poveglia Island. Its history is soaked in blood, tragedy, and madness. Over the centuries, this small island has witnessed plagues, mass burials, and unimaginable horrors. But even now, long after it was abandoned, many believe the island is still haunted by the tortured souls of those who met their end here, earning it the name Island of Ghosts. The island's history goes all the way back to 421, when the first settlers fled there to escape the barbarian attacks on the mainland after the fall of the Roman Empire. By the 9th century, the population had begun to grow, and a happy and prosperous community arose. At this time, a podesta, which essentially means a mayor or governor, was established in Poveglia. In 1379, though, the island community was attacked by the Republic of Genoa during the Guerra di Chigia, which was a war fought against the Republic of Venice. The people were evacuated from the island, and in the following centuries, it remained mostly desolate. Later in the 17th and 18th centuries, it was used to create forts to guard the Venetian lagoon as well as for warehouse storage purposes. But to understand why Poveglia has gained such a terrifying reputation, we need to focus on the 14th century, during one of the darkest times in Venetian history, the outbreak of the Black Death. In a desperate attempt to stop the spread of the plague, Venice turned Poveglia into a quarantine checkpoint. Ships arriving in the city were forced to stop at the island, and those suspected of infection were dragged off to die. 1348 was when the first 2 plague-infected ships arrived, and it was then that the island became a quarantine zone. Venice's other quarantine islands of Lazaretto Nuovo and Lazaretto Vecchio had become too full, so other infected individuals were sent to Poveglia as well. An estimated 160,000 plague victims, men, women, and children, were left to rot, their bodies tossed into mass graves before they were burned. Later in the 1630s, the plague swept through the land once again, and the island held a similar purpose. It's said that the very soil of Poveglia is half human ash, a chilling reminder of the island's deadly past. Another disturbing note is, whenever a new body had to be added to the mass graves or death pits, obviously somebody had to crack it open. It was found centuries later that some of the corpses had rocks stuffed in their mouths. This was because some bodies would sort of internally combust, which sometimes happens from gas buildups inside of us when we die. This would cause blood to come out of the mouth of the corpse. This, of course, being the late 1300s, it was thought that these were vampires that feasted on the corpses of the dead. At that time, it was thought that a rock in their mouth would cause the vampire to starve to death, because I guess vampires couldn't just take the rock out of their mouth? Then in the late 1700s, Napoleon and his army actually used the ghostly presence surrounding the island to their advantage, as they housed munitions there during their Italian campaign. Even still, it was found out, and the island was invaded, and a few battles even broke out, adding more lives to the island's death count. Though used for hundreds of years as a quarantine and kill zone, Poveglia's horrors didn't end with the plague. In the early 1900s, the island was repurposed into a mental asylum, and that's where things took an even darker turn. It was said that the poorly constructed facility was used more as a place to house the exiled than to actually treat the mentally ill. Nonetheless, the hospital was notorious for its brutal treatment of the patients. Many were said to be subjected to cruel experiments at the hands of a sadistic doctor who, according to legend, performed lobotomies with crude, archaic tools. Apparently he was referred to as Dr. Torture or Dr. Geo, neither of which are obviously his real name, as Geo means this. The most chilling part of the asylum's story actually revolves around the doctor himself, though. Legend tells, after years of tormenting his patients, he began to suffer from strange hallucinations, visions of the spirits he had tortured. Driven mad by these hauntings, he climbed to the top of the hospital's bell tower and leapt to his death. Some say he was pushed by vengeful spirits. His body was found broken at the base of the tower, but the hauntings didn't stop with his death. Since then, countless visitors and explorers have reported terrifying experiences on Poveglia. Locals refuse to set foot on the island, believing it to be cursed. Paranormal investigators who have ventured there describe hearing disembodied voices, seeing shadowy figures moving through the abandoned buildings, and feeling a suffocating sense of dread. Many even claim to still hear the ringing of the bell tower, even though it was removed decades ago. I guess that doctor is a needy one. The island has since been visited by Ghost Adventures and various YouTubers like Shay, Yes Theory, and Dara Ta, even though it's been closed to the public for years. But don't get disappointed just yet. You can still reach the island via a special permit issued by the Venetian municipality, and it doesn't sound like it's too hard to get one. With an awesome history that goes all the way back to the end of the Roman Empire, today, Poveglia Island remains a place of mystery and terror. Though it stands abandoned, many believe the spirits of the plague victims and the tormented asylum patients still linger, trapped between this world and the next. Is Poveglia truly cursed, or are these stories just the remnants of a dark, haunted past? Either way, one thing is certain: Poveglia Island is not a place for the faint of heart.